Yes, first of all, I would like to thank all of you for gracing this evening with your presence here. And also, I would like to thank organizer of today, the Earthen One, and our partners for all the events in Youth for December, Vegan Outreach, Voiceless India, UFCI Foundation, Plant Power Fit, Ahimsa Fest, and the Vegan Indians. So, without wasting any further time, I'll quickly introduce all of you to today's panelist. We have with us Mudra Parekh. Mudra is from Rajkot, and she is working on a venture of plant-based dairy alternatives here. Then we have with us Lenisha. Lenisha is from Mumbai. She's working on a sustainable thrift store. We have Hetvi with us, who's only 16-year-old from Rajkot, working on vegan food business in Rajkot. And finally, we have with us Kirti, who's pursuing her MBBS along with her sustainable brand called Simply Kiras. So I would request all the panelists to switch on their cameras. So I think we have with us a great panel here today, and all these young entrepreneurs want to make me ask that what all led you to your journey into your ventures? Like, what all inspired you? I remember when I was this young, I couldn't possibly think of committing myself towards such serious causes or ventures. So I think the first question that I would want to ask all of you would be, what was your inspiration for starting this venture, and what difficulties did you face into it? So we'll start with Mudra. Mudra.
Thank you so much for the question. So, the first question that you asked is my inspiration. So, I turned vegan almost a year back after watching 5 minutes of Dominion, and then I started to, look around my house and the place that I live in. I live in Rajkot, and here dairy alternatives are really expensive that are available, or they aren't available at all. So I started selling my own products that I make myself without any preservatives or without any added things, or I like the packaging also, I make it very sustainable. So once I started doing that, I got a really great response. And the second question that you asked was the difficulties. So the difficulty that I faced, like the huge most difficult, was removing the taste of soya in soya milk. So it is really difficult, and I had to go through a lot of trial runs before that, and my sister was, there to just taste it all, good, bad, taste it all. So I didn't really want to, use a recipe that was already available. I wanted to try to make something of my own, because obviously it is my own business and there should be something unique about it. So after almost 4 to 5 months, I finally had a good batch without the beanie taste, and that I could use in regular a cup of tea or coffee. And that was really good. Like, that was a really good experience for me myself, that after a long journey I came there. So yeah, I hope it answers it.
Yes, yes, yes. I guess the series of experimentation that you did in order to get the perfect product could like really inspire all of us into pursuing something that we like. I'll ask the same question to Lanisha.
Okay, so my journey with veganism started 4 years ago when I did not even know something like that existed, and I was following a plant based diet, but then that was nothing more than that because I was intolerant to dairy, so I had to switch. And then after that, when I came to know there's something called as veganism, I researched about it, and then one by one, I started to understand a lot of things that veganism was helping in a lot of ways. Veganism was helping the planet, And what I came to know that one thing that I love the most, fashion, is actually the world's largest polluter, and helps in it helps in a lot of it helps damage the planet in a lot of ways when it comes to water pollution, soil pollution, and everything. And that's because of fast fashion. So I wanted to do something for myself as a change for the world, and that's how I was introduced to thrift shopping, and that's how I started my venture Terra Bloom, which is a thrift store on Instagram, and we sell pre-loved clothing and accessories so that we can, in whatever ways we can help save the planet one at a time.
That is wonderful, Anisha. I think this is really unique when we think of sustainability, because most of us direct our thoughts towards either fossil fuel or plastic, but none of us realize how much the fashion industry is causing damage to environment in terms of the resources that it utilizes, in terms of the chemicals and the pollutant that it releases into the atmosphere. So I think this is really great that you address the problem, which is such unique in itself. Uh,
Yeah, so sustainability, I think I'll say one thing is sustainability is like in a lot of forms, we just need to see it that way. And that's how, I started on my journey from going just with diet to everything in my life is now a lot of it is sustainable. So I think we ourselves can make a lot of changes.
that is great. That is great. I'll move ahead to Kirti. Kirti, how did you start your journey of this venture, and what inspired you, Palsi?
So my journey began last year when I was in Christ University for a couple of months. I got in touch with a professor, zoology professor, Dr. Anthony, and he used to take us on these trekking and trips just to show us the wildlife, the natural beauty of Karnataka, of Bangalore. So that that was one thing that inspired me to get myself more connected towards nature. But besides, when I joined the medical college last year, I came to know about a lot of diseases and the etiology of those diseases. And when I researched about the root cause of the emerging diseases, such as cancer, diabetes, and thyroid problems or obesity related problems. So when I tried to get into the root cause of it, I realized that every single thing that we are consuming these days, every single thing that we are surrounded with, is one of the major reasons for the development of the disease. So I thought that maybe I should start off, transitioning my own lifestyle first, and then I can promote it to others as well. So I started off being vegan 1.5 years ago, diet wise and the lifestyle wise, and I introduced the skincare range that is very affordable, is vegan, is plastic free, toxic chemical free, and 100% organic, made at home without any artificial preservatives. So it was all to give people an alternative which is affordable, easy for the pockets, and also good for the planet and the body. So that's how it all started, and it has been boosted throughout. This journey has been boosted by watching various documentaries, coming to know about a lot of facts, and something documentaries such as Cowspiracy, What the Health, and Dominion, one of the major documentaries that has sparked the fire for veganism in me, and such things. So it has been a very strong factor in keeping me motivated to carry on this along with my studies.
Yes, yes. I think you're absolutely right in the terms of the content that we are seeing keeps on increasing and keeps on inspiring more and more people to adopt a sustainable lifestyle as we move ahead. So
Yeah.
I think this is only gonna increase in time. Next, we'll move to Hetvi. Hetvi, how was your journey into Ambrosia Vegan Foods, and what inspired you to start it?
So basically, my journey towards veganism began when I talked to Mudra's sister, and I remember thinking that I'm going to have to give up so much of like delicious food, and I realized that that was a common misconception that everybody had about vegan food. So the journey towards experimenting began about a year back, but we launched Ambrosia 2 months back.
So, why did you start it? What were your thoughts for starting Ambrosia?
So basically, one myth that we wanted to break was that vegan food is very bland and boring, and the other one was that vegan food is very expensive. So we are giving food that is at the same price range as the dairy versions available, and some of our recipes are traditional um, family recipes because I have ancestry from Burma as well as Sudan, so we have traditional recipes.
That's great. Getting the traditional essence and the traditional recipes back into the fad, and making people realize that we can have tasty food without adding any dairy products into it. So now we'll move to asking questions to each of you individually. But before that, we have a small introduction, a small presentation for each one of you. I think we'll start with Mudra. Wow, that presentation was really touching. I think so. What I would want to know would be who are your typical customers, and like where do they use your plant-based dairy products?
Okay, so my very basic customers would usually be vegans, but sometimes non-vegans also try it just for the curiosity sake, that just because it is something new, let's just try it. Other than that, people who are health conscious, and just because their dietitian told them to, they will at some point, but they won't really be into it as per se. And when we talk about the usage, it is literally used everywhere, anywhere. It can be replaced with dairy milk anywhere and everywhere. So if we talk about specifics, then coconut milk is always used in Thai curries. Then the regular milk that we want, as in tea and coffee, can always be replaced with cashew, because it is the best in texture and the taste. So it resembles the dairy one very much. And when I actually made my coffee or my tea and had non-vegans taste it, they couldn't even make out the difference.
Okay, okay. So people generally try it out of curiosity or because of their health
Yeah,
compulsions, but
yeah,
then they stick to it because they start liking it.
yeah.
So okay, nice. And if you could just list out a few recipes wherein we could use plant-based milk, So I'm sure like different plant-based milk must have different taste. So which
Yeah.
recipes complement which sort of with sort of plant-based milk? If you can like, just given a brief into that.
Yeah, so if you want to make any sweet, as in basundi or gulab jamun or rasgulla, then always I would prefer coconut milk because it has the creamy texture that we want. So in sweets, my first priority will always be coconut milk. Other than that, if we want to use any bakery, like in bakery, then I would prefer soya milk because it is it is cheaper compared to everything, and the soya taste that we avoid usually will be masked behind the very flavors in the bakery things like chocolate, vanilla essence, and everything that will mask the soya bean taste. And in tea, coffee, like I said, cashew milk works, oats milk work.
Oh wow! So like we have alternative for all milk users.
Yeah, true.
So my next question would be something that one of our audience member has like already asked in chat, which is that vegan milks are usually very costly. And the price list that we see here is really astonishing. So I want to know, how do you keep such competitive pricing of all of your products?
So yeah, it is really a good question, and it has been asked a lot. So when we talk about milk, like I am staying in Gujarat, so we have to compete with Amul here. So when we talk to anybody, like why don't you go vegan? Then the first thing that they will say it is expensive. So the reason behind keeping these prices is that we want to break the stigma that vegan food is very expensive. And when we talk about Amul, so the first thing that we tell that we sell vegan milks, the first thing that they will compare it with is with dairy. So if Amul is sharing at, they are selling at 50 rupees, and if we keep even 60 or 70, then the first reaction will be no, no, it is expensive, even if it is only 20 rupees. That is the mindset of people. So we didn't really target at the profit margin rather than just providing options. Now if I'm providing soya curd and peanut curd, then the Amul curd is also the same price, as in 60 rupees. If I make it even 10 rupees like higher than it, then people have an excuse. So I didn't really want people to have that option even for an excuse.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And also, generally the Gujarati mindset is people would try to look for the cheaper option available.
Yeah, very
That is
true.
what they go with it. So yeah, it's wonderful strategy, particularly for Rajkot. Now, moving ahead towards Lenisha. Lenisha, so I think first and foremost thing that comes to my mind when I think of your concept thrift store is that fashion is generally associated with newer trends and newer designs. It's always considered fast fashion where things are changing every minute, every now and then. So how do you compete with the general notion, the general idea of fashion that has been already built into people's mind?
That's a really good question. And as you said, like it's constantly changing. So that's one thing that, how that's one way how fashions like really like made a place in the world where it's harming than causing then giving more benefits. So what thrift stores and what we aim at thrift stores is that people get a chance at these these outfits or these items or these accessories once again. Well, it's because all of the products are pre-loved. they have an emotional attachment of the previous owner to it, and then they have a story, like if they did not like it or if they liked it, or was it your favorite product which they now have to give away because they can't use it anymore. So that's one, like, special emotional attachment that comes with the products when we sell at thrift store. Because when you're buying from fast fashion brands, it's just one product that everyone else is wearing too. But at thrift stores, each item is individual and unique, and you get to experience it yourself because it's directly coming from the previous owner to you. So I think that's one way that thrift stores really distinguish themselves in the whole fashion industry.
Thank you, Lanisha. I think that's wonderful, very satisfactory answer. The first time when I heard of your venture, this was something that I really wanted to ask. I was in fact so curious that I forgot about your presentation. So we'll show your presentation now, and then I'll move towards the next question.
That's all right.
Now that everyone is familiar with the concept that we are discussing, the next question that I would want to ask would be, so how do you manage the shoot, modeling, and marketing of your products?
So what we as thrift stores, like, because there are so many of us out there, do is that our customers and our audience, we love talking to them. So we know what kind of products they want and what they don't like, what they like seeing on like our Instagram pages and stuff. And we plan our shoots accordingly. And the best part about thrift fashion or thrift stores is that all our products are shot at home or in a small, like, studio setup at home itself. So it gives a very personal touch to the clothing. Whereas, like, when you go to a high fashion or like fast fashion brand, they have professional photo shoots and like white backdrops and, like, in studios itself. So you don't really connect to the person or the product really. Otherwise, you just like, oh, okay, so this t-shirt looks good, I think I'll buy it. But when it comes to thrift stores, the way we plan our shoots is like, okay, so we've matched this particular thing with this element. This is how we style it and stuff. So we create a personal story through these shoots and like these pictures, or we also post videos a lot about all the products, showing all the details and stuff. So I think that's how, like, all the thrift stores that I have seen and I have interacted with do is that we ask what our customers want and then provide it. So I think we really create a benchmark for all the other thrift stores and like future thrift stores that are gonna come. Is that we create a brand out of our own stuff and, like, connect to the audience on a personal level.
That is great. I think that instead of giving out products, you give out stories for people to accept. It's really nice. Moving ahead to Kirti. Kirti, first we'll have your presentation, then I'll move on to questions. That was something different. So, Kirti, the first question I would want to ask you would be, how do you manufacture these products, and well, what are the list of ingredients that you avoid, and how did you come to know about this know-how of manufacturing such eco-friendly products?
Okay, so all of these products have been manufactured since day one at home only in my own kitchen where I also prepare my vegan food. So it's something that it's completely safe even when you're making it and also safe when you're using it. So it has been manufactured or produced in the home itself, in the kitchen home itself, and has been that place only for a while now. But in the coming years, probably we'll be shifting to somewhere else for the bigger manufacturing place and setup. As of now, it's all homemade, and the ingredients that I personally don't use for making such products, since I always promise that it's vegan and free from toxic chemicals and 100% organic, I need to assure that it is that way. So certain ingredients such as parabens and sulfates, or like sodium lauryl sulfate, and any kind of irritant, chlorines, these are certain chemicals that we don't use. So for example, in our shampoo bars, so the conventional shampoos that all of us might have been using so far has a lot of EDTA and tetraethyl chlorines and a lot of things in it, which are known to cause cancer. These are actually in our labs, we kind of term them as carcinogens. Certain chemicals that we don't tend to use is the ones that you will find behind your shampoo bottles or conditioner bottles. And for example, the lip balm, which is one of the cheapest things available for sale in our range, only for 85-90 rupees, and it stays for 6 months. So that thing basically is made out of oils, butters, and natural waxes only. And conventional ones, if you go for Vaseline, maybe it has petroleum jelly in it and it has paraffin wax in it, which is just again a byproduct when you are extracting petrol for usage. And it might also be used in plastic industry. So these are the kind of chemicals that we avoid, so that not just the health is given the benefit of it, it's also, we also save the environment along with it. So there are a couple of chemicals mainly, so these are just few of them.
That is great. I think awareness of such products is very important, because seldom people like us know what all products that we use and how are they harming our
Yeah,
bodies. So
yeah.
I think this is really wonderful, and more more and more people are getting conscious about what all they put into their body. So
Yeah.
I think such brands really help them make a conscious choice onto it.
Along with it, it's not just our body. When we use a product, for example, a shampoo bar, if you're using shampoos, it eventually drains out into the water bodies, and it then reaches into the water bodies, it reaches into the
So
groundwater, and
pollutes the environment
it
along with our bodies.
yeah, yeah, and it leads to bioaccumulation. And chlorine is one of those substances which is heavily, like present in all of the things that we're using. For example, even in the Harpic cleaners, in the shampoo bottles, in the dishwashers, a lot of things have chlorine in them and their derivatives. So it all accumulates, and it accumulates in the bodies of the animals, in the plants, and we consume them. Then it accumulates in us, and eventually the circle goes on, and the
Yes, yes,
diseases
yes,
develop. So
yes,
yeah.
yes. I think not only it harms us, but our environment as well.
Yeah.
Great, great. I think great thought, Kirti, working into this sector. Now I'll move to Hetvi. So, Hetvi, first of all, I would want to know that how do you convince people to try dairy-free products, particularly in a small town like Rajkot?
So as I mentioned before, the savory dishes were already there was already a demand for it, so that was not a problem. But the baked goods and the chocolates, people generally have this misconception that without dairy they can't be good. Like they have these products need to have dairy. So what we did was during festivals we launched these offers where they get to taste these products for free after a certain amount of purchase. So then they after they tasted it, they obviously liked it, and then like that's that.
Okay, so before I ask you further questions, presentation for you that we want to everyone to see it. We can have the presentation on screen. Okay, wow, that is such a unique menu in itself. So, how do you attract customers, towards this? Like, how do you market? How do you get new customers?
Uh, like in the beginning, it was the close people, but we then used social media platforms, and then it was word of mouth as well. So yeah, we use social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook for marketing.
Oh, nice. So, you probably do only digital marketing as of now, and with word of mouth, since more and more people start liking it, they start spreading the message and awareness among other crowds, right? Great. So, seeing you, all of you, young crowd, I think one of the questions that pops into my mind would be, what are your future plans with it? So, we'll start with Mudra. Mudra, what are your future plans with your venture, and if you have any suggestions for new entrepreneurs in your marketplace?
Yeah, so my future plans, if we say, then the near future plans will be to get a license and then start on Swiggy and Zomato. And the future plan, the greater one, will be to set up my own factory where I can do things on my own. But sadly, I won't be thinking about pan India, because if we do pan India, I will have to add preservatives. I have to think and get in with packaging which is not really sustainable. So if I have to supply pan India, then obviously I would have to use plastic, which I don't really want to use. If that is removed, then sure. Other than that, the preservatives are just chemicals. We know that, and that is not really sustainable, as Kirti said. So I am trying to cut down on those things right now. And like you asked, just one simple thing to future entrepreneurs, that just keep faith in yourself. No matter what people say, you are going to do good if you believe in yourself. Like, there are people there out there who will try to bring you down, but you should not. You should just focus on what your progress is and where you want to reach and how will you reach it.
Nice. That's great suggestion that instead of focusing on external negativities, one should focus onto their self and pursue what they deem right for themselves. Nice.
Especially in a business line that is just upcoming. if we talk
Yes,
about
yes, yes, yes,
veganism.
yes.
There is a lot of non-vegan products around us, and that may take our moral a bit down. That how will I compete with this?
Yes, I think this is wonderful suggestions to everyone who's working in such a niche marketplace. Moving on to Lenisha. Lenisha, what are your future plans for TerraBoom, and what are your suggestions for young entrepreneurs into your marketplace?
So with TerraBloom, me and my partner, we don't want to limit it to just get selling pre-loved clothes. But my idea is to also give old clothes or discarded fabrics new meaning and bring them to life, not in just in form of clothes, but decor or accessory, bags, or earrings, or jewelry, jewelry and all these stuff made from clothes, and give them a new meaning so that the shelf life of that particular fabric goes on to a long time. And another thing that I'd love to do is employ small household women who are into tailoring or embroidery or stitching, sewing, so that I'm not the only operator behind TerraBloom, but we can also, provide a living for small household people. And that's one plan that we have for TerraBloom. And one thing one advice that I'll give is that if you want to start your own webshop, make it your own. Like, put your story out there, connect with your customers, ask what they want, research what kind of market there is and what do they really need. Because what one thing that we specialize in is talking to our customers and providing that very thing. So I think that's one thing like everyone should look forward. Like, what does the market want? Where does it lack? So that you can step in and provide your services to them. So I think don't shy away from doing what you love. And as Mudra said, believe in yourself.
That is great suggestion for any entrepreneur, so to say, to connect with their marketplace and then move ahead. Moving on to Kirti. Kirti, from you, I would want to know your future plans for your venture, and how does a young entrepreneur like yourself, who's also pursuing their serious academics, I believe you're doing MBBS second year along with your venture. So how do you how to manage like academics along with a venture such as yourself?
So for the future plans, personally, I'll be a doctor in couple of years, and I would wholeheartedly give my time and effort to this thing because it is also important. But I want to bring a change with the people who connect with me in life in a way that I can tell them that this is the ethical way of living a life, and have a holistic approach towards treating them, not just giving them medicines and getting away with it, but also telling them that these are few changes that if you make in your life would be good for you, which would also include in for some patients, which might not be an exception, of switching to a vegan lifestyle, which is not only good for the environment but also has multiple health benefits which has been scientifically proven as well. Along with that, coming to the kiras and how kiras will bloom in the coming years. So, as of now, only I am working single handedly in managing kiras from production to packaging, marketing, everything, modeling, everything. But yes, I would be including my mother, who often helps me informally, who helps me. She would be a part of the team formally and legally. And we also look forward to employing certain underprivileged women in our community and in Jaipur, especially because there are a lot of women who are still fighting against patriarchy and who are still restricted, especially in Rajasthan and in my city. I find that a lot. So I'm trying to find women, at least 10 women by March of 2021, and we will be helping them live a dignified life. So yeah, and a lot of new products are gonna come because we want people to have a really waste free and zero waste, actually vegan an affordable, simple lifestyle, which is good for them, for the planet, and for their pockets too. Yeah. That's my plan, future plans. Coming to how I manage my studies, I myself don't know, to be honest, because it's the dedication, you know. It's like, I mean, I have the dedication towards working in this thing, and moreover, um, whatever money we get through Kiraz, 20% of that goes into plantation and animal welfare. So it's something which is deeply connected to me. It's something that I feel along with my studies, it's something that I really, really want to do. It's not for money, it's not for a business kind of way, but yeah, it's for the environment, because we humans are taking so much from the nature. We are taking so much. This phone, this electricity, the Wi-Fi, everything has an element of nature in it. So why not we give it back? Why not we give back to it in some way, right? So it's just that way. And when I think of such things, when I think that yes, human life is not just restricted to earning money and living a life, it's more of giving to people, giving to the nature, then it keeps me going that yeah, I have to do. And somehow it manages, the studies goes on, the work goes on as well. Yeah.
Wow, that is really superb. I mean, you're working for so many causes. You're working against patriarchy. You're working towards environment. You're planting trees. You're helping animals directly and indirectly. I believe with so much motivation only you're able to pursue both your venture and academic simultaneously.
Yeah. It's the driving force, the reasons. You know, there's a quote by Albert Camus. He says that if you have a why, you will have all the house to live. So it's in his one of his book, Man's Search of
And search
Meaning,
for
something
meaning.
kind of.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if we have the reasons, I think we can all always start no matter what our age is, and we can always, even from the scratch. So, I began my venture with by selling just 5 lip balms in a month. I was selling only 5 lip balms a month when I started off. But then now it has come to this standard, it has come to that position by God's grace and by everyone's support, that now I can have more than 50 orders in a month, and I'm really grateful for that, because I'm in a way kind of helping people adopt a beautiful life. And I don't think anything else makes me happier than knowing and accepting that.
That is really inspiring, Kirti. I'll move ahead to Hetvi. Hetvi, so, what are your future plans for Ambrosia Vegan Foods? And the same question that for Kirti, that how do you manage your academics along with your venture? I believe you are in 12th right now.
So,
Yes, so suggestions for young entrepreneur like yourselves who are also, working on their academic as well as their ventures. So how do they go about it?
so about our future plans, we are soon going to be putting up our products in the local department stores, and that is the short term plan. And like just now we are providing food that is freshly made because we are taking pre-orders, but we are considering because a lot of customers are telling to go on Zomato and Swiggy. We are considering it because uh, our main goal is to provide vegan food to a large group of people. So it may be a challenge to provide fresh food. So that's, if we can overcome that, we would love to come on Swiggy and Zomato as well. And about suggestions to other entrepreneurs, I'd say that as long as you give good quality products, no matter what field it is, you are bound to get a good response from your customers. And always be open to feedback, whether it is negative or positive. It's up to you how you take it, because that just helps you improve. And about how I manage my studies and the business both simultaneously. Like I have help. We are 4 co-founders, and we divide work based on our expertise and the requirement. So yeah.
Okay, so you basically rely on your partners to do a lot of stuff on your venture, and you manage your academics simultaneously. Nice. That is great suggestions to have reliable partners if you are gonna pursue a venture while you are pursuing your academics as well. It has been a great session, really inspiring for the likes of me. So before we move ahead to audience Q&A, we have an announcement. We have an announcement to make. So every month we have a hero of the month. For the month of December, the hero of the month is Mudra. Yes, this is sponsored by Plant Power Fit. Mudra, thank you so much for everything that you do for the cause. It's like what you do is extraordinary, providing such resources at such competitive pricing. I'm sure a lot of people would consider veganism only because their alternatives are cheaper in Rajkot. It's
Thank
wonderful
you so
work.
much
Yes, so you'll be
to
receiving
everybody.
gift hampers by Plant Power. It'll reach your place, and
Oh,
you are the hero of the month for December. So
thank
I would
you.
like everyone to clap for Mudra. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the Earthen One and Plant Power.
And before ending, I would want to remind all of you that we have these panel discussions on every weekend. And before departing, I would once again want to thank our organizer, the Earthen One, and all the partners, Voiceless India, Vegan Outreach, UFCI, the Vegan Indians, Ahimsa Fest, and Plant Power for making this happen. And lastly, Mudra, congratulations for becoming Hero of the Month for December. And thank you everyone for attending this. It has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you for being our host.